Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 155 of the Seezus Show. Glad to be back with the bi-weekly content. Hope you guys enjoyed episode 154. That was shot a few weeks ago as well, too. So on episode 154, we pretty much got straight to the point. We sent some praise to OKC and how they closed it out and how their big three essentially got the bag. We also talked about NBA free agency and broke down most of the important offseason moves. And then we talked about the NBA draft as well, too. So hope you guys enjoyed that. And today's going to be a little bit more different. Still going to obviously keep it, to the status quo with the NBA talks as well, too. But with, like I said, with us expanding, we just want to be all encompassing, all entailing. So going to talk a little bit WNBA with Carl's rants later and, Superman talk. So, putting that with music as well too, because there's been a bevy of a lot of good body of work that's come out as well too. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for my co-host, for my boy Carl Conyers.
What's up, everybody? It's Kyle here.
You gotta look like a Kyle, man. It's like, no, let me stop.
I was on a work email where my name is listed multiple places, and this dude still called me Craig. And
Oh wow.
yeah, so it'd be like that.
Yeah, my fault. How you been though, man?
I've been all right, man. Yeah, had a pretty good weekend, and excited for this week. Excited. Summer starting to come to a close. I feel like all these blockbusters have been coming out and all this music is coming out, so it's a pretty good period.
Yeah, pretty good period to have that AMC A-list, huh?
Mm-hmm.
A little mad it went from 25 to 27, but we'll be all right.
Yeah, that shit went up.
And I already know by this time next year it's gonna go to 30. Watch, I can feel it. I don't want to speak that into the universe, but
But
you
these
know how that
ticket
shit
prices
go.
have been going up too, so at the same time, it's like the value is still there, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. That's true. That's true. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into today's hottest topics. First, we're gonna go off with the NBA. Now, this happened a couple days ago, but ladies and gentlemen, Bradley Beal is an official Los Angeles Clipper. He essentially reached a buyout agreement with the Phoenix Suns, and he will be signing a 2-year, $11 million deal with the Los Angeles Clippers, and also has a player option after the first year. And last season, Bradley Beal only averaged 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Shot 50% from the field, but only played 53 games. So he only played 53 games this past season, and then 53 games the season before as well too. Obviously, most notable, he was at his height of his career when he was with the Washington Wizards as well too. Obviously, when you think about him, you go back to his Florida days, transitioning to the Washington Wizards, playing with John Wall. You know, we thinking they would have some potential, at least to battle the big old LeBron of the East as well too, but things didn't necessarily pan out. Ended up being a league leader in scoring one of those years with 30 points per game as well too, and just hasn't really kind of found his fit ever since. And people always like to eventually get to a point where they kind of want to battle for championships, but sometimes the grass isn't always necessarily green on the other side. But now with the Clippers, who basically won 50 games last year and added a little bit more to the roster, and shipped out Norman Powell, and now have him there. I'm assuming he's going to be the starting two guard. Carl, man, what are your expectations for Bradley Beal being a Clipper and everything he's kind of been through?
My expectations are very low. Um, as a matter of fact, I don't know if I even have real expectations for Bradley Beal at this point in his career, and in my NBA fandom. No, to be honest, I don't think that this team, I guess like that Phoenix team with him wasn't great either, but I don't know if I feel like this team is better. Uh,
As far as like his fit to the team?
maybe not even just his fit, but the team in general. I don't really think that these Clippers, I'll say this. The Clippers are a team whose two best players are James Harden, a person who has proven year in and year out that when it comes to the playoffs, he's not super reliable, and Kawhi Leonard, who's proven year in and year out when it comes to playing games, regular season or playoffs, he's not really reliable. And even though he played in the postseason last year, it looked like he started to wear down as the games went on. So I just have zero faith in two 35-year-olds, leading my team to anything if they're not named LeBron James, or Steph Curry. And that's a very short list. And
Mhm.
so adding somebody who didn't really elevate the last team that he was on, and his best statistical years came when his team was terrible. Like, to me, Bradley Beal on a good team was 22 to 23 points a game, which is cool,
Mhm.
but he did that like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess he can get you 15, but he's really bad at defense. And we'll see if he wants to accept this role because he didn't really seem to want to accept this role on his last team. Maybe
Mhm.
getting bought out will have humbled him or have a change of heart, but I don't see his addition as a needle mover in any type of way, especially when honestly Norman Powell did the exact same thing that he's going to do this year, but I think Norman Powell probably would have done it better. Um, and you just got older. And you also got more injury prone to a team that's already injury prone. So, I mean, it's a move. I think the Clippers are always trying to do things to try and get over the hump or be relevant, but it doesn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Low risk, high reward if he can pan out to be who we think he can. But like you said, with the proven track record, especially these last two seasons from a statistical standpoint, you really don't know what to expect. Uh, And it's good that it's only $11 million, right? So that's great. I think he's going to slide into the two guard spot. I do have concerns with what you said about injury proneness, not only with him but with that big three, like you said, Kawhi. Harden's for the most part has been pretty durable, but like you said, the flip side to even though he's Iron Man during the regular season, when it matters the most, he kind of shrinks away from the moment, and sometimes his game really doesn't translate to being highly effective, especially when the game slowed down in the playoffs as well too. So that's one thing I do like with Bradley Beal as opposed to Norman Powell. I think they're pretty much equal, but as far as like a pure scoring standpoint, I feel like Bradley Beal has the edge. I think with Norman Powell is more so he catch and shoot threes, gets a lot of his buckets in transition or line drives. Where I think Bradley Beal game is translated more in the playoffs, being a three-level scorer. He can go off pin downs, he can spot up shoot, he can play in the mid range, he can get to the basket, he can draw fouls as well too. So I think that's going to help them a little bit more, knowing that James Harden isn't who he is. And I know one of the biggest things with Bradley Beal being on that Phoenix Suns team, they went through two different coaches, and he had a lot of different roles. So they wanted to start originally Devin Booker at the two, and then they wanted to start him at the one, and then vice versa as well too. And then he started to see him come off the bench and all that other good stuff. So I feel like at the end of the day, you're kind of collecting your paychecks, but when you're not in a situation where you're happy, you're not really going to give it your all. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he loves basketball, but when you kind of get to the NBA at certain points, depending on what organization you're at, the situation you're in, you can kind of lose that love. So I feel like I hope with this new team, this new look, and I think he's going to be top two, top three option that works wonders for him. But like you said, the biggest concern for me is defense because even with Norman Powell, he's a little bit younger, but Norman Powell, I like his on-ball defense a lot more than Bradley Beal's.
Yeah.
Maybe something's going to change. I didn't really quote unquote watch too many Phoenix Suns games unless they were nationally televised, but we'll see where that goes. But like I said, low risk, high reward. They finished 50 games last year. I think he's essentially gonna, if he doesn't average 17, I can see 19 to 20. But I feel like in pecking order as far as scoring, I probably got like if everyone's healthy. It's hard to say if, right? When we can only look at the past. Kawhi one, Zubac might take another step. We'll see. And then Beal, and then I feel like Harden, like he doesn't want to. I think he wants to more so be a facilitator. So I think this should boast well for him. And if there's any coach to get the best out of him, especially given the last coaches he's been with, I think is with someone as consistent as Ty Lue. So we'll see how that kind of pans out as well too. Um, CP3, man. CP3 finally allegedly gets his dream farewell tour. I mean, he hinted at Pat McAfee show he wants to continue playing, but then he had another interview saying like he thinks this is going to be his last year. So do us a favor and let us know like is this going to be your last year or not? I mean, it just makes sense. It's a storybook, kind of ending as well too. So he's reunited with the Clippers for his 21st season. As far as career accolades, I almost kind of forgot. Like, obviously, the last couple years, he hasn't been like the number one, number two option. But for his career averages, he has 17 and 9 assists. And damn near for his career, kind of floated with 50-40-90 splits, which is pretty impressive. Forgot he was a 12-time All-Star because that was what have you done for me lately, right? So I forgot he's a 12-time All-Star, Rookie of the
I
Year,
do.
nine times all defensive, 11 times All NBA, 5-time assist champ, 6 times steals champ. And I forgot he was an All-Star MVP, obviously NBA top 75, and has that finals appearance. And then with the Spurs, averaged 9, 7, and 4. And for someone who's not an Iron Man person as well. He played 82 out of 82 games, so that was very, very impressive. He hasn't done that in I think almost a decade. So to me, he's going to be going down known as being a point guard, that pure point guard of our generation, along with like Ray John or Rondo, and even the nuance with Tyrese Halliburton. I kind of placed him in a specific category, and to me, he's going to be known for elevating his teams. And with each team he's been on, with the Hornets, the Clippers, the Rockets, OKC, the Suns, he's always taken them from a worse situation and put them in a better position. And obviously with the Spurs, a little bit older, that was more so to me for youth development and trying to instill winning habits. But I mean, how you feel about Chris Paul? If this is in fact his last year, year 21, and do you think he has anything left in the tank to help the Clippers?
I mean, yeah, I think he could possibly. It's funny that you mention Rondo because I think that that might be the type of role he can play, like when Rondo was on the Lakers those last 2 years.
Ooh, yeah.
Just coming in, maybe 15, 20 minutes, but I can do everything on the court. And that honestly, yeah, I just vividly remember like when Rondo would come in during that whole playoff run, he was just like getting steals and being disruptive and good passes and hitting threes and stuff like that. So I think that would be a really good I think it's a pretty good addition. I think we'll see if it is really his farewell tour. I do
Mhm.
give players grace in that though, because I think it's easy for us as fans to be like, was it your last year or not? When it's like, well, this has been my life up until this point. Like most of these people started playing basketball when they were kids. So like this has been my entire life up until this point. Sometimes it's hard to make that decision until you come up on that moment. So we'll see on that, but I'll never forget. And that's what I honestly with sports I try not to do because it's the same way people were trying to disrespect Dwight Howard like he wasn't a 3-time defensive player of the year, like he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't care about what you did in these last couple of years. Like he still had a very long prime. And the same with CP3. He's honestly only been out of his prime maybe the last 3, 4 years. Because this year with the Spurs, last year with Golden State, and then his last year in Phoenix weren't really that great.
Oh shoot, I
Besides
forgot
that,
he was at Golden State. Dog.
yeah, yeah. But beside that, he just took a team to the finals 4 years ago, 5 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, Chris Paul is that dude. I think I like his addition to the Clippers way more than I like Bradley Beal.
Mm.
I think Bradley Beal is completely unnecessary, and I also think now with the addition of Chris Paul, I just wonder how many the ball can only be in so many people's hands at once. James Harden wants the ball, Kawhi wants the ball, Bradley Beal's going to want the ball. John Collins might not necessarily be a ball handler, but he's still going to want to take shots and stuff like that. Zubac's still going to take shots. Chris Paul is the ball handler. So I think they added a lot of stuff to this team just to add a lot of stuff to this team. we'll see how it comes to work out. I just know there's going to be a lot of sacrificing. And of course, I think Chris Paul he'll probably be the main one to be like, yeah, I'll sacrifice because I'm like 40 and I've been sacrificing these last 2 years. But that's why going back to the Bradley Beal a bit too, I think he's kind of like the biggest wild card in a negative way there. But yeah, for Chris Paul, it's going back to LA where interestingly enough, he had his best years probably in New Orleans, but
Yeah,
I feel like he's because of Blake Griffin, because of Lob City, he's most known for his years in LA. So I think yeah, it's great for him to be able to go back there if this is going to be his last season, and they'll at least get for sure they're going to make the playoffs and they might get to like round two or something. So and it'll be interesting him and James Harden being teammates again. So I like
yeah, yeah. No, I like it as well too. So, are you buying stock in the Clippers at being a playoff team or playing team?
Oh, they're definitely gonna be a playoff team.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, even with say Kawhi misses like 40 games or something like he did last year, I
Yeah,
still think they have that is the good thing is they've insulated themselves for when one person is out, they have that depth. But I think that also bit them in the ass last year because Kawhi was out for so long that Norman Powell had the role of the number one scorer. Then when Kawhi came back, he really went to the number three scorer, and it really messed up his game for kind of like the rest of the season.
yeah.
So yeah, it can just be a double-edged sword. So we'll see kind of how that works out for them.
Yeah, like you said, Kawhi is known for having that knee injury as well too, and for him to only play about 30, 35 games and then be 50 and 32 under Ty Lue, that's going to work magic for them. And they loaded up, man. So you got potential starting five, James Harden at the one, Beal, and you have Kawhi sliding to the three, and then newly acquired John Collins and Zubac. And then you got CP3, Bogdan, Derrick Jones Jr., Batum, Brook Lopez, and then Chris Dunn as well too. So they're deep as well. And if we notice anything, especially with this last playoff run, is rosters depth roster within your roster depth matters as well too. My biggest concern, like you said, is the injuries. Beal, it seemed like he always be having them hamstring injuries now, lower leg, Kawhi's knees as well too. And then I mean, Collins is pretty young, and Zubac is pretty young as well too. I think Derrick Jones is relatively pretty young and done, but outside of that, like your main core are old heads.
Oh,
So, are
oh,
y'all even gonna, even though y'all got depth, are y'all even gonna be ready when it's playoff time? You know what I'm saying? So that's like the biggest red flag that I have. But I mean, on paper, barring any injuries, if we're playing like a fake GM mode, they look solid. Um, and another concern I do have, like you said, is their defense, but they pretty much have the same team from last year. And I mean, obviously the Denver Nuggets got knocked off game seven in the second round, but first round they took them 7 games. And, you know, had they had more scoring, especially going on the road in Denver, who knows? Maybe it's a different story as well, too. So I think Beal, like I said, plug in like basically like you said, they him and Norman Powell kind of cancel each other out. But like I said, his offense is more beneficial to the playoffs. And then, like you said, John Collins just gives them an extra pep in the step, and I think Zubac's gonna do well. So you need bigs now more than ever in the Western Conference, especially with what the Denver Nuggets did, what OKC's done right now, and with what the Houston Rockets did. So, you have a traditional big in Zubac, and then you sub him out for a guy who's still capable of being a great defensive anger and can spread the floor as well too. I think they got a lot of things to work with, but like you said, it's going to come down to health, and if, like you said, that they can build that chemistry over time. So I think I think my big three is OKC, Houston, and Denver, and then from there, like it can go anywhere else. But I see them being like a 5, 6 seed,
that's exactly what I
probably tinkering with six, borderline playing, just because I think, like you said, they may have players in and out the lineup. So,
I think also these teams in the West are really good right now.
hmm
And like you said, I don't see them finishing with a better record than those first three teams that you mentioned.
hmm
And I know Golden State hasn't done anything, but to be fair, their record with Jimmy last year would have put them at like the third or fourth seed or something like that.
Facts.
The Lakers now are another year in with Luca, and they've added some other pieces. And Yeah, so it's just really tough out there. But I do think they're gonna avoid the play-in. So that at least has them top six.
Okay, cool. In other news, last time we were on this show, we were talking about how the Milwaukee Bucks essentially stretched out Damian Lillard's contract and waived him.
Contract.
Now he's going back to where it all began with the Portland Trail Blazers and signed a 3-year, $42 million contract with the player option and drum roll, please, no trade clause. So
Yeah.
obviously with Damian Lillard, he's going to be known for not ducking the grind, but he's gonna be as well not going to be because records are meant to be broken. So right now he's currently Portland's all-time leading scorer in points and three-pointers made. But this gives him time to be closer to his family, take that whole year to rehab and kind of come back and see what he can do with this roster. So some notable players on the roster: Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, Chris Murray, Denny, Jeremy Grant, and obviously the draft picks they picked up this past season as well too. But boy, full circle moment. Kind of bittersweet, but what are your thoughts on him going going back to Portland, man?
I think it's interesting. They also still have Drew Holiday on the Trailblazers right now. But I've been seeing a lot of people talking about how he's going to fit with the young players, and I think the thing to remember is he's not going to play next year. So this is more for like 2 years from now. And I think the landscape is going to be really different. So that'll be more interesting. I think right now this was just to like, okay, you're our franchise player, best player in franchise history to be real in terms of longevity. I know Bill Walton won there, but he was only good. He was only healthy for like a couple of years. Um, so I think it's again one of those good stories. You know, I think at this point he's going to be the veteran in the locker room, bring mentorship, especially for Scoot Henderson, who they hope is their point guard of the future, who he hasn't been amazing these first 2 years, but he also last year he was much improved. So like he wasn't
Mm,
bad. And I think people forget sometimes it can take a couple of years for some point guards to like really
that's true.
long. So yeah, I think this is, one of those veteran mentorship things, doing right by him because I don't think anybody else was going to pay him that much money or give him a 3-year deal when you know he's not going to play the first year of it and give him a no trade. All those things are just like we just want you here. We're just giving you the respect that you deserve, and we're not just gonna trade you away for whatever assets or some cash considerations or something if you're bad in the last year of this deal. So. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like it a lot. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what the fit is when he actually comes back and when he plays. I feel like he's probably going to be a six man, especially honestly at that. And he's 35 right now, so he might be like 36 or 37 by the next time he steps foot on the court for real. So yeah, I like the optics of it, and it just gives him, I feel like, for this season, gives them a feel good story
Hmm.
better
Nah,
vibe,
you
hopefully, in the locker room.
nah, you're right. Kind of just makes me think. I mean, they say about hindsight, but it makes you think like should he have just stayed and just went through the hardships like how kind of Kobe did back in the day or Dirk did just for a little bit or what Devin Booker's doing right now and just rebuild, or would you have still done the same situation where it's just like I'm not quite sure the direction we're kind of headed in right now, and I am feeling a little bit pressured. I am a little bit older. I'm at the end of my prime. I want to win now. You know what I'm saying? And then I think this is also going to kind of make me think where the league's going to go forward with like these top players. Like, are we going to continue to see ring chasing, or you think he's going to set like another precedent for this new era where it's just like it's not necessarily always about the ring?
I don't think this sets any different precedent because if he hadn't tore his Achilles, I doubt this would have happened. I think
True.
it's very cause and effect. Like he tore his Achilles, they cut him, and then he joined the other team. Like it, if he hadn't tore his Achilles, he'd still be on the Bucks right now, and they're not going to trade him back to the Trailblazers for no reason.
Hmm.
So I don't think this changes anything. This was direct correlation, but I also think that I honestly think this is probably the best outcome for the Portland Trailblazers because
Mm.
they were able to you basically traded Dame for a bunch of stuff and then got Dame back for free, you know? Like I think that was definitely the best thing for all of them because he did want to go. I mean, they weren't going to be close to doing anything in his time there. At least he can say like I tried, I gave it the opportunity, and then something catastrophic happened, and it led me to come back here. But I think he knows at this point as well, I'm not going to be the player that I once was when I come back from this anyway. So winning a ring in a diminished state might be cool, but it's like we don't really like Jason
Facts.
Kidd that ring that he won in Dallas doesn't hold the same weight as it would have if he had won it while he was really in his prime. Same with some of these other guys. So it's like, yeah, I could have got one of those when I'm averaging like 10 points a game, but like, what does that really mean? So I think he made the right decision, go at least give it a try. I think we also forget, like, not you, but the media forgets how heavy everyone was on his ass about like you need to get out of there. You're not trying to win, but yada yada yada. Like we don't care about you being loyal. So like he said, okay, I'll give into that and I'll go try. And so now we can't take that away from him, like and honestly, the 2 years in Milwaukee went about as awful as they could have in terms of just they literally never got a chance to even try in the playoffs. Like the
They didn't
first
even
year, I
fit.
want to say
They
Giannis
didn't
was
even
out.
coexist together either, too. Like
Yeah,
they
like
didn't run any pick and rolls, nothing.
first year Giannis was out, and then this last year he had blood clots going into the playoffs
I
and
forgot.
barely ever actually got himself together and then tore his Achilles.
Hmm.
So they never got a chance to even really see what it could be like in the playoffs. But he tried, and that's you can't take that away from him. And I think it
Hmm.
works out that like now I get to go back to Portland and they were able to build because of trading me away. Like if he had still stayed on this team, they wouldn't be as good. They wouldn't have any of these young assets. Like that's kind of just like the facts of it. So
Shit, they might have a lottery pick next year too, right? They didn't trade away their draft pick. I don't think.
I
I
think
think they got the
so.
draft pick for next year. I don't really foresee them being good. And the reason why I didn't bring up Drew Holiday, I just assume he might get bought out or get traded. So,
I think they
shit.
want to keep him for
Oh,
the defensive. I mean, at this point too, he already won 2 rings.
facts.
I think he's probably cool being another veteran mentor. That's what people sleep on is I don't think they're going to be a playoff team at all. But I think they're going to be better than they were last year because after the All-Star break, I want to say they had like the fourth or fifth best defense in the league for the whole rest of the season. So like defensively, I think that's the mentality they're trying to build and the identity they want to have. So having someone like Drew Holiday on the team really fits that.
Yeah. Damn. Guess he gonna embrace it because I remember when he got traded 2 seasons ago from Milwaukee to Portland. He was like, I do not want to be here. So
But that was before he won another ring.
before, yeah, you're right. You're right. Before he won another ring. So things kind of changed. So yeah, that should be interesting because he was also talking about like retiring in Milwaukee and shit like that too. But yeah, things just changed, like you said. So hopefully Dame gets nursed back. Like you said, he is older with that Achilles, so it's gonna be kind of tough. Maybe he's gonna be another outlier like some, but you know, he already has a Hall of Fame resume at the end of the day, and like we said, it seems like he's happy. First and foremost, the city that raised him, and he raised his family there and has his family that's over there too. So, shout out to you, Damian Lillard. Now from NBA, we move over to the WNBA, and I'm gonna leave the spotlight on you, Carl Conyers. Let me know your thoughts and let me hear your rant.
So let me just start off by reading some tweets. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna read some tweets. That's how we're gonna start
Okay.
off, right? So this is from Jamel Hill, who a lot of people on a certain side of the field or politically don't really like, but a lot of times she just spits facts. So she said that another thing that I notice is that all the people saying that these women don't deserve keep citing the financials from this year, conveniently leaving out that their new media rights deal kicks in next season and is over $200 million a year. The WNBA is adding multiple franchises because there are a line of investors wanting in. The financial trajectory is high. You think billionaires want to be in on bad products? The NBA lost money for over 40 years. Do you think that player salaries stayed the same in that 40-year span? Hint, they did not. So the reason I felt I needed to rant was because one, the whole rhetoric with Caitlin Clark and the WNBA has been infuriating for me from the beginning, to be honest with you. And I want to start this by saying Caitlin Clark has done all the right things. I don't blame her at all for any of this. It's really crazy. It's one of those situations where no matter what she says, people kind of just like talk for her and they put her in this place and they just attribute little things to her because it helps them push their narratives. So it's really unfortunate, and I do feel bad for her in that regard. But a lot of things started this weekend because it was the WNBA All-Star game, and the women had on shirts that said, "Pay us what you owe." And again, for some reason, when these women, especially in the WNBA, try and, advocate for themselves, that makes people upset. That specifically makes a certain subset of people who I will not name upset. And I just think it's interesting so I'll say that, and then I'll get to this other tweet.
Take your time.
So WNBA players currently receive just 9.3% of the league's revenue. That includes ticket sales, merch, and TV deals.
That's
For
nasty.
reference, their male counterparts in the NBA, it's 50%.
Yep.
So let's start this again. Nobody's saying that the women need to make 50%. Nobody's saying they even need to make 40%. But currently, they make 9% of the revenue that they generate.
That's
This
nasty.
revenue all comes from them. So now going back to the tweet, this results in their salary cap being set at just 1.5 million for this year, less than half of Joe Ingles' $3.6 million. If
Wait,
anybody knows who Joe
1.5
Ingles is,
1.5 million per team?
yes, that is the salary cap. 1.5 million. Half of Joe Ingles' salary. If you know who Joe Ingles is, that's crazy. So, in theory, if they received even 40% of the league's revenue, that salary cap would be at 6.4 million. That increase would mean that you could have roster expansion. Players could theoretically still make three times their current salary, and owners would still bring in 60% of the revenue. Now, to put that in perspective, that still means an entire WNBA roster would be paid less than Rob Dillingham will make in this next year, which is $6.5 million. So again, people are mad that they're asking for the salary of, well, they're not even at, people are mad that a team is asking for the salary of a rookie, on a later round rookie on his rookie deal. Okay, now the WNBA did lose $40 million last year. That is in large part due to the TV deal, which they are currently signed to, which next year goes from roughly 45 million annually to 200 million annually, going
Damn.
to Jamel's point. That will this will result in essence in the league making money overnight from losing 40 million to a net gain of 115 million just off the TV deal alone. So that's not including anything else that's probably going to go up as the game's popularity grows. Even if the game and ticket sales were to stop growing and merch stop selling, it would still be in the green with this new TV deal. The current CBA would amount to players going from 1.5 million in salary cap to just four, a substantial raise. However, it would cost the league just 2.5 million out of the 115 TV profits. So if the players got 40% of this new TV deal money, that's still just 17 million per team.
Mm.
It's an 11 times raise over their current salaries. And in the grand scheme of things, it is still less than 1 year of Jaden McDaniel's salary.
Mm.
So the league is built on players, whether you're Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, Nafisa Collier, they deserve to get a bigger slice of the pie because as the revenue grows, their pay should grow as well. They're not asking to be paid dollar for dollar what the males make. They are asking to be paid a respectful share of the money that they generate. So
Mm.
that's really where my whole issue comes in is people are mad that they're trying to get more money when most of these people don't know anything about the financials, don't know any. I got into a discussion with one of my friends earlier today, and in it, he said, someone asked him, like, do you actually watch the games? And he said, like, yeah, no, I don't. And that to me kind of encapsulates the entire issue of this problem of it's so many people who are just mad to be mad, mad that these women want more. mad that they don't treat Caitlin Clark like a god, upset because they think that these girls are trying to make NBA money. Like, no, our league now is all you guys keep talking about is it doesn't make money, it doesn't make money. The NBA didn't make money for over 40 years. The WNBA is barely even 30 years old, and they're already about to be turning a consistent profit, probably for the rest of the time that the league is around. So it would stand to make sense that all of these players should also deserve more money. So that's kind of just like my main point of it is really just I think it's so interesting how people who really don't know anything about the sport, who don't know anything about how it's played, who don't know anything about how it's officiated, judged, anything about the stratosphere around the sport or the players or anything about competition, decide all of a sudden they have all these opinions on what's right for the sport and what's wrong for the sport when clearly they're actually doing the right thing. And also at the end of the day, I do agree that Caitlin Clark has been the main driving force behind the increase in eyes and increase in revenue, but she's not the only one. And also at the same time, the same way that when Jordan came into the league and he was the main one to make the league more, of course, like Magic and Bird helped a lot, but Jordan was really one of the big ones to come in and make the league very popular and help it grow. There is no Jordan if there is no Magic and Bird. There is no Jordan if there is no Wilt, Hakeem, all these other players that came before them. So for you guys to sit here and disrespect all the players that are in the league like they did nothing for Caitlin Clark to exist is crazy. Like they all deserve respect as well. They're all people who have helped grow the game and help get the game to the point where somebody now can come in and make it even bigger. Um, so I just think that it's really interesting, people this rhetoric of they're trying to injure Caitlin Clark, they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. No, they're playing basketball. There might be hard fouls. That happens all the time in the NBA. And it doesn't happen when a hard foul happens in the NBA. People don't go on Twitter and be like, "Oh, they're trying to kill this guy." Like, no, it's just a foul. And actually, most of the time, people like it. People are like, "This is what it used to be like in the '90s. We love when they play aggressive and all that other stuff." But now, when it comes to the women being competitors and being aggressive, it's a problem. Like, wouldn't it stand to make sense? Like, yeah, not everyone is gonna like Caitlin Clark because she came in and she took all the attention and all these other things, and now they're putting her on this pedestal. Where, to be fair, if you look at her numbers from this year, she doesn't really belong. But all that goes into being in a competitive sport. By nature, you are not going to just like everyone, especially people who aren't on your team. Like, I'm competing on you. I want to kill you every night. I'm trying to go at you. Like, that's what this is. So to act like it's something else, to try and coddle these women like they're not athletes is just so insane to me. Um, yeah, I'm gonna stop there. But I just think that it's really interesting the way that people talk about this rhetoric with Caitlin Clark. I think it really does the entire league a disservice. Going even to like she should have been on the Olympic team. It's like, no, she shouldn't have. She was not at the time one of the best 12 players in the sport. And they definitely shouldn't have had her on the Olympic team if they knew she was just going to sit on the sidelines the entire time. Because to be real, Jason Tatum sat on the sidelines the entire year and people were mad about it. And that's just honestly, to be fair, a smaller fan base. Jason Tatum is not a divisive person. And that's how they acted about him being on the bench. If she had been on the roster and just been on bench the entire time, these people would have been trying to come for their heads. So again, it's like, how about you just let this league, who clearly they're doing the right things because they just signed this new $200 million deal. They are putting Caitlin Clark in all the positions to be an ambassador, to be in all the marketing, to be in all the ads, but they can't elevate her to where she doesn't yet belong, the spots that she has to earn by continue. It's a lot of people have one good year. You're a great player when you have multiple good years over and over and you start to stack those up. That's when you start to get the real respect that comes with those accolades. When I can verify like, oh no, you're this. You didn't just have a flash in the pan good season. And to be fair, I think she is going to be a great player. I think that it's not just a flash in the pan, but she still has to prove that. She still has to show that. Um, so, and again, I like her a lot. I think that not I think, I know she is great for the league. She's bringing a lot more eyes. But I just think we need to stop with the way that we're treating her like she's not a basketball player. Like she can protect herself. She's not some little white girl who's waiting on a bunch of these guys on their computers to save her. Like, oh, get off of her. They hate her, whatever. Stop. Let her play basketball. Either watch the sport or don't. But y'all aren't paying into this revenue because you're not watching it. All you're doing is just criticizing and bringing negativity and trying to find and putting it in a way of like, oh, well, I care about them making more money. I'm trying to help them. When in reality, you're just trying to divide people and you're trying to be divisive.
Mm.
So I just really hate that. I hate the whole rhetoric around it, and I just wish people would take the time to educate themselves instead of spouting nonsense.
Masterclass. Fucking masterclass. First video I'm gonna upload. I have a question for you before we branch off. Like, so you said the new CBA deal kicks in with like the TV, right? With the TV money, right? So even though they already signed off on the new CBA, are they still only gonna get 11%, or will they have to like go through like a lockout to get even more money? Like, how does that work?
So that's the thing is that, and if I said CBA, then I misspoke and I apologize. It's the TV deal is what's going into
TV deal.
effect next
Okay.
year. The CBA is the reason that they had those shirts on because they are currently in negotiations for the new CBA, which they're like,
When
hey, we know all this money is coming in, so we
mhm.
know we deserve to be making more money. And the league is really pushing back on that.
Damn. Even though they're in talks right now, when does the current? Do you know when the current CBA ends?
I think the current CBA ends either after this year or after next season.
Yeah, they might have to have a lockout, dog.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like they know like we're not making y'all are about to make all this extra money and y'all are trying to keep us at
Still give us the
9% of the
same.
revenue. You're trying to keep us at a Joe Ingles salary for a team. That's not one player doesn't get to make that money. That's for the whole team.
Mhm.
It just doesn't make sense.
Damn. So like, what do you if you were if you can put your hand or eyes in the crystal ball, look through it, like what do you see happening in the foreseeable future?
I think there may be a lockout. Um, and to be fair, I think a lockout in the grand scheme of like
Gotta hurt the owner's
history.
pockets.
Well, I was going to say, I think that in the grand scheme of history, a lockout is actually a good thing because it shows how the league is growing. Like the NFL has had multiple lockouts, the NBA has had multiple lockouts, and that's because the players are like, hey, we are worth this amount of money. Y'all are making a lot more money, and we deserve to be making a bigger portion of it.
Mhm.
And to be at this point now, like they never had this leverage before. They never had this leverage of like, hey, the league is about to be really profitable, all these other things. So like this is a super pivotal moment for them in their history because now it's like, all right, we've spent all this time building the league up, as any other league takes time to build up, by the way. But we've taken this time to build the league up, and now it's time for us to really enjoy the fruits of our labor. Like
Mhm.
they've done the years of most of these women, I mean, as people probably know, because that's how Brittany Griner got put in jail. Most of these women had to go play overseas in the off season just to be able to
Yeah.
make a real salary because their salaries from the WNBA alone weren't really a lot. So it's like they've been through all of that, and now when the opportunity comes, they deserve to be making this money.
Mm. Damn. Nah, that was a masterclass. Yeah, I think in order for them to get what they deserve, you're gonna have to definitely put some damage into the owner's pockets, like you said, just based off of past history. That seems to be the most logic way to kind of go about it. So, like you said, 11% is fucking ridiculous, bro. So, yeah, it's gonna continue to grow, and like you said, it's people like you and among others who makes this more aware, so we can kind of really get the ball rolling as well too. So so much talent in the league, and it's only going to go up from here, from a game standpoint and a financial standpoint. I'm praying about that as well too. So I appreciate that masterclass, though. That shit was phenomenal. That shit was phenomenal. Switching gears here, one of the blockbusters of the year, of the summer, Superman came out and debuted on July the 13th. And don't worry, Carl Conyers, you have been busy. You weren't able to see it, but I will do my best within my given right to not spoil anything for you. More so, kind of narrate and some takeaways I had from it as well too. So you had your passionate rant. Mine won't be as in that emotion, but I'll try my way to match it from a movie standpoint as well too. But Superman, man, I had some notes here. Premiered in theaters July 13th, obviously, and they had a budget of $225 million, and it had an opening weekend gross of $125 million. So far worldwide, now it's been out for almost going to be 2 weeks, relatively pretty soon. They've grossed $406 million. And it's crazy because out of that $225 million budget, David Cornsweet, the guy who played Superman and Lois Lane, they only got paid 750K. And
Dang.
then yeah, and then Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, he got paid, I believe, 1 million as well too. So it's always interesting how deals kind of work as well too. Like I know from the past, like you had Margot Robbie who wanted to do a deal more so where she gets some money from the back end with the success of the film. So I'm curious to see if they just got paid up front or they also got something else as well too with residuals. So seems like they're on the right path. Is as far just as far as like how they've done for a franchise for a reboot for the DCU, making 406 million so far. So that's great. Um, I loved how it was an origin story, man, and no spoiler. It picks up with Superman already being Superman, and I believe he's in year 3 of his career. So starts off where he basically just faced off a major villain named Hammer of Baravia. He's like a mechanical s type of villain, and he's essentially because he got his ass beat. He's publicly humiliated, and he retreats back to the Fortress of Solitude, in which they've already shown in previews and snippets as well too, where he's essentially nursed back by Crypto, the dog, and a team of robots as well too. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor, goal obviously being as cynical as he is to manipulate fear to the public and utilize political tactics as well too. So you have central characters with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, who's I believe Clark Kent's best friend that works at the daily at the at, I forgot the name of the spot.
Daily Planet.
Daily Planet. Thank you. I was about to say Daily Bugle from Spider Man. Daily Planet. So basically, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen's goal is to uncover the truth behind the weapon's origins, which you find out once you start watching it, and then Lex Luthor's possible corruptions, which ties into like classic journalism. Think of like dialogue heavy based films that you've kind of watched before, like hit series as well too. Apparently, like as far as like there's a famous writer called Aaron Sorkin who's known heavily with his dialogues with journalism and politics and all that other stuff. So think of ties with classic like journalism mixed with like a modern like geological like twist because it also like pokes fun of or has political ties kind of what's going on in the Middle East as well too, which is pretty cool. But along the way, Superman interacts with a few heroes, the Justice Gang, who all represent unique approaches to being a hero, and it also focuses on how Clark Kent slash Superman kind of balances his Kryptonian lineage and how he is trying to also balance his human aspect of it. So a lot of the themes, at least when I jotted down when I was watching the movie, I to me it focused on hope, cynicism, a sense of belonging, responsibility, and like I said, humanity as well too. So for me, I think that, and I'm crazy to go on a limb right here, and I can't wait till you watch this, but I think for me, this is the best Superman film that's came out, and I think this is the best portrayal of Superman. As far with me watching from the beginning to Brandon Ruth from Superman Returns to '06 to the Man of Steel movies that was with Henry Cavill as well too. And I kind of made an analogy. It was kind of like a passing of the torch, or when you're a kid, especially in our era, nowadays these motherfuckers got tablets and shit, what I'm saying, right out the womb. But as a kid, I love going to Toys R Us, getting a new toy, and then you either replace that toy or you get to a transition where you essentially get introduced to going outside or getting introduced to playing video games and then you just abandon the toys. That's how it kind of felt for me as well too. So I thought that David Cornsweet delivered a Superman who's more modern with a true sense of ideology, and he's still kind and still like is very kind how Superman was and still figuring out who he is, and he made the role seem a lot more relatable as opposed to Henry Cavill's character, who was a lot more dark, especially with the tone, didn't really have room to have an array of a personality and an array of emotions, and it was more godlike to me, in my opinion. So I like that. And I heard even for the role, like, because he's my height, 6'4", but he weighed about like 185, 190, and won the role like when it began to shoot, like a few weeks before it shot, he was already up to 240 pounds. So
Hmm.
that shows you the fucking commitment that he had to that role. Like he went in advance, months in advance, year in advance, whatever, for the fitting. And then when he came back and put weight on, they had to redo everything as well, too. Um, so I love that. I thought that the comedic standpoint he had was very on point, and he kind of showcased this very nuanced yet new, no, very nuanced yet true to Superman slash Clark Kent, blending like the coolness with the quirkiness, and like I said, that good blend of serious and unseriousness that he showcased. I love that. The villain, Lex Luthor. I'm not going to reveal anything to you, obviously, but it's played by Nicholas Holt, and he made me become a fan. I only know I've heard about projects that he was tied to. The only one that I've seen him personally that I recognize him from was when I watched the second reboot of the X-Men movies where he played Beast. But Nicholas Holt, to me, 5 star, bro.
Okay.
5 star. Like
He's really good. I've seen him. He was in The Menu and a bunch of other stuff I've seen.
I need to watch all that shit, dog. 5 star, very cold, very calculated, just a true menace who legit in his mind believes he's doing everything right. So in a sense, he's a tweener with anti-hero, but more on that villain side of things as well too. And what made it even better for me is in his interviews, he said that he auditioned for the role of Superman, and obviously, like being an actor as well too. Whenever you go to an audition, you're gonna have natural competition as well too. So it's best to just go in there and kind of just have your moment, and you kind of just live with the results as well too. And obviously, you're gonna have typecasting, and to me, Holt looks nothing like a Superman. I mean, they could have made him look like a Superman, but compared to the previous castings that they've had from back in the day up until now, looks nothing like Superman. But he did so well that James Gunn was like, "Hey, yo, like play Lex Luthor." So that was pretty cool, and I felt like that added to the tension whenever they shared the screen together in the film because it's almost like, yo, I auditioned for the highest of the highs, but yet I got another role. So like you felt that tension that he had something to like to work for, and I loved it. I thought that was very well delivered as well too. Supporting cast was good. Crypto steals every scene that he's in. You know what I'm saying? I low key forgot about Crypto. And if you're a dog lover, which I know you are, you know what I mean. And I felt like they had a pretty good, accurate representation of that bond between owner and dog, dog's best friend, man's best friend. Um, I like Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner. I didn't really have that much knowledge of them before I watched the film, but I thought they brought a great level of charisma, humor, and comic accuracy as well too. Superman's parents, obviously he's from Kansas, compared to the other films, they really got in their country redneck bag, and I felt like it was a good fit that was a little bit more different and more true to today. And like I said, to go back on like the journalism, like driven storytelling, like from an investigative aspect at the Daily Planet, they had very sharp dialogue and ethical slash moral dilemmas, which made it more modern and grounded as well too. So it's one of those things where like if you can see that joint in closed captioning, definitely do so. If not, like just watch it the first time, and the second time you definitely kind of want to, see what the CC's talking about as well too. Because I ain't gonna lie, I went in there a little smacked. So sometimes we smacked some dialogue go one ear and not the other. You can't
Yeah.
rewind that shit in real time. But overall, pretty solid. The tone was a lot more different. Very vibrant with standout colors. It kind of went from more of the comic book edge to it. Um, And if you like James Gunn, you know how his style is. So if you enjoyed the Guardian of the Galaxy volumes that they've had, you're definitely going to enjoy this one as well too. I thought the sound score by John Murphy and David Fleming was great, and they paid homage to the original Superman with a little spin to it. And I think, you know, hopefully this gives room for a successful DC run because growing up, I loved, at least the central characters within, the DC universe as well too. And for the longest, because they did so bad with live action, I was just like, yo, FDC, it's all MCU. So now I'm kind of excited because I'm a little in this point in time a little flat on Marvel, but I am looking forward to at least this phase with Fantastic Four and Doomsday and all that other good stuff as well too. So like I said, it makes me forget how much I love the central characters as a kid, and now I'm even more curious to explore the Uncharted characters, which they're going to bring to light as well too. So if I had concerns, probably some people may say like the overcrowded cast, because at times it felt like Superman. To an extent, I can see how people would feel like he felt diluted because he wasn't the central focus. Um, and then my other concern is like with the Justice League, looming in the near future and the tone that they're going for. Granted, James Gunn said with the tone itself, it's not going to be like Marvel. It's not going to be like The Dark Knight or whatever. Every single form of content that they release, whether it's for TV or film, every single DCU project solely is going to have its own tone. But with this tone, obviously, it's like I said, it's more on the Guardian of the Galaxy side. So that makes me like question what this tone gonna look like for Justice League. And then the most important character outside of Superman for Justice League is Batman. Where does Batman fit into that universe? Are they gonna use a new one and just reboot and recast, or are they gonna use what's already been successful and tie in Robert Pattinson's character and Matt Reeves' vision on it as well too. So that's something to kind of think about as well too. But if I had to give a rating, I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10, and I recommend everyone to go see Superman as well too because I truly do think that DC has something cooking up. I think James Gunn among his other colleagues are cooking something up good, and I have high hopes. I feel like with what Robert Downey Jr. did for that Marvel reboot, I feel like David Corn Sweat definitely has that component to him as well too. So that was my little rant on
Okay.
Superman film, and I hope you guys all out there who haven't watch, and if you watched it, go watch it again.
Bet. I mean, we're gonna see. One of my friends said something similar that he liked it better than the Man of Steel, but I Henry Cavill is like an amazing Superman to me. So
Fire, fire.
and
Like I want
Zod
fire.
was an amazing villain.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so we'll see.
Because I feel like the best villains are literally the anti-heroes. Like everything's justified in their head. They may not always go about it the right way, but you can be like, oh, if I was in his shoes, I'd probably do the same shit. So
Mm.
that's why I liked about Zod as well too. But even though I did like how Christopher Nolan did have his hands on the Man of Steel franchise, I just felt like they just kind of rushed trying to compete with Marvel. So we never really got to see Henry Cavill like truly get in his bag for a multitude of films and whatnot as well too. So he's always going to be revered by me. He did a great job. He added his own little twist to it as well. It's kind of like for me, I'm a little biased, right? Like I feel like as much as I love Tom Holland and as much as I love Tobey Maguire, I feel like from an acting standpoint and what's most true to the comics, I feel like Andrew Garfield was the best portrayal. He just wasn't given, the best form of technology, necessarily the best script, and all that other stuff as well too. So to me personally, I felt like that was pretty evident when he was in that last Spider-Man movie, and you can argue he basically stole the show as well too. But Henry Cavill did a good job, man. Made his bread. He good. But like all good things must come to an end, and the show must go on, right?
Yep.
So going over to the music side of things, man. Tyler the Creator dropped the album today, and yeah, it's called Don't Tap the Glass.
Yep.
And I'm gonna go into it first and foremost before I pass it over to you. Just talking about expectations versus reality. So I like Tyler the Creator a lot. I'm not like the biggest fan, but he's one of those artists where because of the notoriety, because of him always pushing the boundaries, I'm always gonna stop what the fuck I do and I'm gonna listen to it from start to finish as well too. So I didn't even know he was dropping an album. Like when I went to my cousin's little birthday thing I told you about the other day, one of his friends was talking about Tyler the Creator's about to drop an album, and I was just like, oh shit, like the beginning of the week, not the end of the week. And he was like, yeah,
Yep.
beginning of the week, because he feels like everybody doesn't truly have that time to fully appreciate and dissect the album. And I kind of like that as well too, especially when you already have your core audience. So getting hip to it from word of mouth was pretty fire, but also from word of mouth, maybe some things got misconstrued to me because based on the album artwork and based on information that was presented to me, I thought it was going to be a full out like rap album with huge lyrical content and storytelling. But once you kind of strip that away, you can, to me, appreciate it for what it is. So, I mean, I think it was meant to be fun and not heavy and more so exploring genres that he's like getting deeper with as well too. I mean, when you even when you play it back like the intro, he's giving you like a list, right? And I think one of the lists he says number one, body movement, no sitting still. And then you hear him saying ad libs, none of that deep shit. So he's already telling you like, yo, like this is just for the vibes. But 10 songs, 28 minutes. To me, I feel like once I look past that, I really just focused on him getting into his productive bag, which I think when it's all said and done, like he might go down top 10 of our generation among the greats as far as like producers as well too. So for me, it felt like a hip hop meets like funk meets like dance meets I don't want to yeah GNX drive drop top type music. And some of my favorite songs are probably like Sucker Free. My favorite song was Ring Ring Ring.
Yeah.
I also like Don't You Worry Baby, I'll Take Care of You as well too. But it was a solid project. I liked it a lot. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was really good. I think he did a good job of you not knowing what to expect. And I think that
Mhm.
caused a lot of people to try and make up what they thought it was going to be and then spread and perpetuate those things. And I like
As
that he went
always.
online, like I think it was Complex themselves posted a track listing that had Kendrick and a bunch of other features. And he quote tweeted and was like, this isn't true. Like, I don't know where y'all got this information from. And they ended up having to like take it down. And none of the features that were on that were correct, you know. So I think the rumor mill, especially, his fans are crazy and he has a lot of them. So I think they just try to start making stuff up. Uh, but once you actually like got the project, it's, what he said it was. It was for moving around. That's also like don't tap the glass is also a metaphor for don't be on your phone. So like dance and stuff like that, just like have
Oh,
fun.
my nigga.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what it was. Like it was a album to just it's crazy because it's like it's not dance music because to me that's like Kaytranada and Channel Trace and like some of those other people, but it's music to dance to, which I think that's
I like
like
that.
yeah. So I thought it was really good. Especially again, it was short and sweet, which I fucking love because people nowadays want to drop 30 song albums. I don't have time for that. I'm not listening to that. Sorry, that's, if we want to get on another rant. But I just, yeah, I was able to listen to the whole thing on my ride to work this morning. Like that's
Mm,
fantastic.
yeah,
And yeah, the standout, I think Ring 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 for sure is my favorite. I like Sugar on My Tongue. Sucker Free, and I want to say I'll Take Care of You as well. So
a lot of crossovers.
to have, on a 10 song project, to have a lot of songs that I like already is good. To me, this is like a 7.5, 8, which I think is really good. Especially for something it's not like super deep or anything like that. And he didn't want it to be. And I like that he's doing, I mean, he always does unconventional things, but I like that he's continuing to do that and dropping when he wants to. And he put out merch for it already, and he had a surprise listening party for it at the
Damn,
Hollywood Forever Masonic Temple last night before it came
damn.
out. So yeah, it's and it felt very much also like him getting in his Cali bag, which is like
Mm,
he's been kind of doing a little bit since Kendrick popped off. Just like some of the way he was rapping and stuff like that it sounded more like how California rappers rap. And some of the stuff he was talking about was kind of like more Cali-ish stuff, which is like he's from here, you know? So I just think he's been kind of leaning a little bit more into that recently, which I've been liking to see. So it's the growth from him as an artist is probably
night and day.
the best out of anyone in our generation that I can think of.
Thanks.
To go from Yonkers to this and everything in between is insane. It's really
It's
insane.
part of being an artist, right? Whatever comes to mind, you just have that vision in your head and bring it to light and not being afraid to be judged and just going by the beat of your own drum. So I can always respect that as well too. So I agree with you. I give it what you said, 7.5, 7.5, 8.
Mhm.
Um Clipse album called Let God Sort 'Em Out as well too. That was another song or another track, I'm sorry, another album, I'm sorry. That was only 13 tracks and that was about 38 minutes as well too. And Pusha and Malice reunited since the first time reuniting since 2009. Obviously produced by Pharrell. So you get like that like signature Neptunes vibe, that synergy, but also it has like modern esque productions to it, in my opinion. I enjoyed the subject matter, and I feel like it ain't a Pusha album without him talking about his coke raps. Like that, that's just
Oh
got to
yeah.
be something that has to go there. Um, but with subject matter, obviously get the coke raps in there. And he gets a little bit deep talking about his loss of his parents to, aging and spirituality. And I think Malice is also confronting like his past, questioning his faith and him returning to rap and whatnot as well too. So I feel like Pusha really got in his villain. I call this like his villain rap, which I loved a lot as well too. I thought it was a win for Virginia, being from Virginia as well too. And then you just forget how many talented artists we have over on the East Coast from Virginia, as far as like Clipse, Neptunes, Missy, Breezy, Timbaland, Masego. List goes on and on and on. So some songs I really liked was Chains and Whips, So Be It, All Things Considered, MTB, TFF, and FICO as well too. So it made me appreciate it as well too, because like more of my bag is really R&B, but I do love rap. I'm not the most big of a fan when it comes to like the modern YN based rap. So it was cool to like have something of substance because like I said before, I love a great blend of storytelling with clever wordplay, especially if you're a rapper, and something that has substance as well too. So I gave this about also a 8 out of 10.
Real, I mean, for me on this album, I and honestly, this is kind of how I feel like a decent amount of Pusha T's stuff is. He knows how to rap and he knows like rap really, really good. And the wordplay, the bars, all that should be crazy. But I think there is something, and it's just my opinion, and people might
Yeah.
get mad. I think there is a difference between being really good at rapping and putting out a good song.
Mm,
Um, and I don't think none of these songs are bad, but I don't feel like for me, I want to go back to a whole lot of them because I don't just want to hear people talking at me about serious stuff all the time.
yeah.
That's not what I'm going to my music for. Now, I can
Yeah.
also be objective and say like, again, they're really good at what they're doing. Subject matter is great, all of that.
Mm,
But I don't feel a lot of replayability from this for me. I don't
mm,
know what situation I want to be in to hear like for instance like the first song or something he was talking about his family, all that like sad shit. I'm like I just don't know what vibe that is for me. Like when do I really see myself turning this song back on? Um and that's yeah, that's really my thing on it. I listening to the whole album, I was like, oh yeah, they talking that shit for sure. But
so like a mindset based album for you.
it's funny to me, this is actually like the opposite of Tyler as an
Yeah.
album, right? Like he said,
Yeah.
I'm focusing more so on just the vibes and shit like that, versus they're like, we're focusing more on the wordplay. And I kind of like my music more in the middle. To
Yeah.
me, you can say some shit and it still is cool, but it's not overly wordy. Like
Hmm.
I don't know if you follow Mick Jenkins, but when he came out, he was super hot. And then he had this period where it was like all his music was just super wordy. He was just talking a lot, saying a bunch of shit. I can't listen to that. And then he
Hmm.
transitioned back to finding a better range of like the in between. So like they're old as hell, and like this has kind of been what they've been for a while now. So I don't expect them to like change it or anything like that. And again, I think objectively the music is good. Like I would agree that this is like a 7.5, 8. I'm just
Yeah.
now going to like me personally.
Personal taste. Yeah.
I'm probably not gonna listen to a whole bunch of these songs again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like basketball, right? You got your three level scorers like Tyler the Creator who always try to add something to their game. And then you got specific role players, aka artists, who just stay in their niche. So there's
Hmm.
there's something to be said about that as well too. But I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at all as well. Um Bieber swag album, man. Unexpected drop for the beepsters out there. I feel like for sure he got in his experimental bag, which I can appreciate, as we talked about before. As a fan of just music and just being a listener, a fan of him as well too. So subject matter was relatively pretty good too. Talked about betraying fame, his mental health, especially like those skits with Drewski, which provided some comedic relief as well too. And you can tell he's maturing even more. He tackled marriage, fatherhood, spirituality. Had a good amount of features up there with Gunna from the Sexy Red, which I feel like the Sexy Red song. I understand why he had that feature, but low key he could have kept that to himself. You also had Lil B. Two Chainz had some fire ad libs on Yukon. He had Copain and much more as well too. So favorite track was definitely for me personally track one. All I can take like that. That was fire to me. Like I play that shit every day. And I was gonna ask you as well too before you give. Well, one you can like talk about it as well too, but like since it's such an experimentative album to me, like it's so I don't really like putting music in a specific genre, but it's just natural to do that. But it felt like I had like R&B with pop with a dash of gospel and like alternative to me. But I liked it, especially compared to his last couple projects as well too. And then like I said, the fact that it was unexpected and dropped out of nowhere, and the fact that he's been gone for such some time, it makes you appreciate the artist and his body of work or her body of work even more as well too. So I thought it was solid. I give it a solid 7.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's as good as the other two albums that came out. I don't know how I feel about the the like tone or pitch that like he was using on a lot of it. Like it
You feel
wasn't
like it was like sporadic, like all over the place, sort of.
well it just felt like it wasn't just him singing, like I could tell like in especially in like those first couple of songs that they were just like either pitching it, auto-tuning it, whatever.
Mm.
Um and it doesn't feel like overall the project, there are definitely of course some songs that may have leaned more that did lean more into that, but like overall the project didn't feel like an R&B album. It felt like Justin Bieber, which is like pop to me.
Hmm.
Um but I don't know. I feel like I'm always conflicted on I not necessarily white people trying to create black spaces, because I like Mac Ayers and other people like that I know that we, have in common who kind of really do R&B, but it's the fact of like you
You
coming
feel
into
like this is
black
more of
space
like
and doubling
a
down, calling it swag. Like
mm.
it felt like you're trying really hard. And that's the type of stuff I don't really like a lot of the time. Um,
Was that was so was that your depiction like of him naming his swag? Because for me, when I heard swag, is like I'm Justin Bieber. I can literally name it this shit, and people still gonna go listen to that.
I don't think that, no, at least for me, I think that if this was any of his other albums where he didn't have all these rap people on it, he would have never
Yeah.
thought to name it Swag. But he had all
Mm.
these niggas on this, to be real. He had all these niggas on it. He was like, I'm gonna go with something that is in the black culture, in the black zeitgeist. I think if he had named it something else, it would have been very similar. It would have been something that, again, you can attribute to black people.
Yeah.
That's why I just don't like doubling down on that. Sometimes it makes things
Yeah.
feel forced.
Yeah.
And then in turn, when you talk about some of the features and stuff like that, then it can make it even feel like, oh, you just threw Sexy Red on here because this album's called Swag, so it's supposed to be like
Hmm.
this, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but again, overall, like it wasn't bad. I think he's again, the same thing I said about Clipse when they're really good at rapping. Justin Bieber's voice is insane. Like you can't, there's a reason he was famous when he was 14, like it just is really, really good. So that in itself is always gonna lend itself to the music at least being passable. But um I don't know how I could rank this, to
Let
be
it
honest
marinate.
with you, because
Hmm.
it's not like I listened to a bunch of just I listened to his last album that had Peaches on it, I want to say.
Oh yeah.
For that, he was making pop white girl music, you know?
Hmm.
So, uh, yeah. He's only really wanted to be black the last couple of years. So,
Yo, a week, a week. Oh man. Last but not least, Giveon dropped his second studio album title called Beloved. And like you said before, I really like from back in the day, like since we started physically collecting CDs or vinyls or whatever you want to call it, where like it was just a limited number of songs and you're not really going over the top because like as a human society, I just feel like our brains are just getting worse and worse. So like attention spans for a multitude of songs is just nasty work. But to have 14 songs that only go on for about 30 to 40 minutes, I thought was very well done. I think for Giveon, like I'm a fan of Giveon. And I feel like for me personally, I feel like this was his like he's had good bodies of work, but for me personally, I felt like this was him like finally like evolving his mature coming out party as well too. So I think this was his arrival album compared to his EP and then his first album, give or take as well too. And the album it was centered around like I said before, I always say introspective storytelling. Gives into his reflections on love, regret, and self growth as well too. And I like the style because for me, I wrote down notes where it feels like his vintage meets modern day R&B. And I
mhm.
feel like this is a good depiction of R&B compared to what we just talked about with like Justin Bieber and other artists as well too. So you can definitely hear some inspirations drawn from older artists like Teddy P or like Marvin Gaye as well too. And I was watching one of his interviews, and he was saying with this album in general, not only did it take obviously a long time to make, but it's meant to be played live, which makes sense because when he said he was recording it, it was more of a live jam session that helped shape the sound, which moves away from 99% of this music that we hear now is just loop based production, which I can really appreciate, especially if I'm playing it in the car with my headphones or at the crib as well too. So I think that it kind of enhanced the emotional authenticity to the project itself as well too. Some standout tracks that I like was track one Mud, and for me especially like with my bread and butter being R&B, I mean even in any general, even any album in general, but more so kind of sticking R&B. I'm very huge, so huge even with all the playlists I make, I'm very huge on intro tracks. Like intro track, I like intro tracks that ease you into the album, and I like how he delivered it.
Mhm.
And it kind of set the tone for what to expect. So obviously with Mud, he's addressing public slander and heartbreak. Other songs I like, I can tell, bleeding, which kind of navigate the themes of yearning and emotional vulnerability, capturing relationship complexities as well too. And for me, being as old as I am, it's always good to like, not good, but like now that I'm older and I've experienced a lot of, if you want to call relationships, situationship, flings and whatnot, it's cool to like not only listen to this album, but go back and listen to more classic albums. And I can find every song to an extent of where I can relate to and plug myself back into like a past situation or whatever as well too. So I think it shines because he comes off as being very I say emotionally honest and intelligent and very cohesive. And like I said, I feel like this was his most cohesive album. And to me personally, like I'm a little biased. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like now obviously you have like hit singles. Like I feel like artists now either they'll have a hit single or they'll just promote they're dropping an album and then just drop the album. And obviously with him, he dropped like two singles as well too. And it's human nature when you drop singles like that, since that's been the songs that have been overplayed, you're more likely to kind of skip them. But I mean, outside of that, it blends well, and to me, it's very non-skippy from start to finish as well too, as well too. And I feel like fast forwarding in a time, I think is going to end up that's going to be something that's timeless. And for me, I think he got into his vocal mastery bag. He has a unique like baritone voice, and his delivery just feels like more refined. So I gave this a 9 out of 10. But what were your thoughts?
Um, I think this is a huge improvement over his last album. I don't think his last album stood out at all to me, or honestly to a lot of other people. Um, I agree. This does feel, it felt more timeless. It felt more like him using his voice to his advantage, if that makes sense. You know, he has
Yeah.
like an old-timey-ish voice, you know, so like make
Hmm.
music that really fit that um and fit him and music that you could really feel.
Hmm.
I want to say I think my favorite song was Backup Plan. Uh,
Oh, that should hit too.
yeah, that one re went really crazy, but the whole listen, like I put it on when I was cooking and it was smooth pretty much the whole way through.
Smooth. Hmm.
Which is not a given nowadays with a lot of people, a lot of very popular people's albums. So I like him, you know, it feels like a triumphant return for him. Hopefully this carries over and, you know, gives him some type of momentum to keep putting out, you know, more projects because I feel like he's one of those artists now where we have so many artists. So it takes a lot to really separate yourself to be a timeless act, you know, like you go
Hmm.
down as like a
That's
guy who put
facts.
out some good albums, you know, versus like, are they really going to be talking about you in certain conversations in like 10, 15, 20 years? So
Facts.
I think this can be one of those things to help him really get on that trajectory and he has to just continue it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. So, any closing remarks for 155?
I will say, you know, if y'all have any projects out there, any albums that you thought were really fire recently that we should check out, let us know. Any movies that we, you know, think we should check out, let us know. We try and see a lot of stuff, but if there's anything you think we haven't seen, let us know and fucking educate yourselves before you get on the internet spewing lies and spewing hate or spewing your opinion, which is very ill-informed. Opinions, everyone likes to say your opinion can't be wrong, but if you don't have the basic backup information, then yeah, I think your opinion can be wrong. So, you know, just educate yourselves and let's try and be less ignorant as a country, as a people. It's kind of hard right now, but that would be nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been nothing but a master class from Carl Conyers from start to finish, and I loved every moment of it as well too. Retweet everything that he said. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode 155 of the Season Show featuring Carl Conyers. Make sure to subscribe on all forms of social media at the Season Show at Carl Conyers at Sir Seezus. We are out.